A company can erase your name in 1 second, Marcus Reed would later tell his daughter, but it takes much longer to erase the truth. At 8:17 on a cold Monday morning, Marcus pressed his employee badge against the scanner outside Halcyon Mobility's main entrance. The machine blinked red. He tried again. Red. Behind the glass doors, the lobby looked exactly as it had every morning for the past 6 years. White marble. Silver elevators. A wall-sized screen showing smiling children stepping onto bright yellow school buses. Everything clean. Everything confident. Everything pretending nothing had changed. Marcus wiped the badge against the sleeve of his faded navy jacket and held it to the scanner a third time. The light remained red. "It won't work," said a voice from inside. Daniel Cross, the company's chief operating officer, stood near the security desk with 2 members of Human Resources. His gray suit was flawless. His expression was not cruel. Cruelty would have been easier. He looked mildly inconvenienced, as though Marcus were a meeting that should have been canceled by email. Marcus lowered the badge. "What happened?" Daniel glanced toward the clock above the elevators. "Your employment ended at 8 this morning. No warning. No meeting. No chance to finish the coffee cooling in the cup holder of Marcus's truck." One of the Human Resources representatives stepped forward and offered him a white envelope and a small cardboard box. Inside the box were the ordinary pieces of a working life: a black coffee mug, 2 pens, a photograph of his 8-year-old daughter Lily, and the red knit cap she had made for him at school. Marcus did not reach for the envelope. He looked at Daniel instead. Did the Monday shipment pass inspection? The question moved through the lobby like a draft no one wanted to acknowledge. A security guard lowered his eyes. A receptionist suddenly became interested in her keyboard. Daniel's jaw tightened, only slightly. "This is no longer your concern." Marcus stood still. He was 42 years old, broad-shouldered, dark-skinned, and tired in the quiet way single fathers often were. He had spent the previous night helping Lily build a cardboard model of a school bus, then stayed awake past midnight studying brake response reports that did not match what he had seen on the testing floor. 6 weeks of numbers. 6 weeks of questions. 7 internal warnings. And now his badge was dead before the buses had even left the warehouse. "Those units failed under wet road simulation," Marcus said. His voice stayed low. The delay was almost 2 seconds. Daniel stepped closer, careful to keep his smile in place. "You have been dismissed for unauthorized access, disruption of operations, and loss of internal trust." Marcus finally accepted the box. "Trust," he repeated. One word. Nothing more. Above them, on the mezzanine, Claire Whitmore emerged from the executive elevator with her phone pressed to her ear. At 37, she carried authority the way some people carried perfume. Quietly. Expensively. Impossible to ignore. Her pale face was composed, her blonde hair pulled into a precise knot, her white coat bright against the steel railing. She saw the box in Marcus's hands. She saw Daniel beside him. For 1 second, her eyes met Marcus's. He waited. Not for rescue. Not for sympathy. Just recognition. Claire looked away first. She had been told he stole confidential files. She had been told he threatened a major contract. She had signed the termination approval at 6:42 that morning without ever hearing his voice. Marcus nodded once, placed his badge on the security desk, and turned toward the revolving doors. Then he stopped. His eyes moved to the clock. 8:18. 12 minutes remained before the first shipment was scheduled to clear the gate. Daniel noticed the glance. "Is there something else?" Marcus held the box against his chest, Lily's photograph resting on top. "No," he said. "Not yet." Then he walked outside into the sharp Chicago wind, leaving his name badge beneath the lobby's perfect white light. The company had locked him out. But somewhere beyond those glass walls, a clock was still moving, and Marcus Reed knew exactly what would happen when it reached 8:30. By 8:21, Marcus Reed had already become a rumor inside Halcyon Mobility. Employees who had worked beside him for 6 years received a brief message from Human Resources stating that he was no longer with the company. No reason. No farewell. His email account disappeared before anyone could reply. His name vanished from the quality control schedule. Even the small label beneath his locker had been peeled away, leaving behind a pale rectangle where his identity used to be. Marcus crossed the employee parking lot with the cardboard box held against his chest. The Chicago wind moved between the buildings with a sharp edge, carrying the smell of diesel fuel from the loading yard. He stopped beside his old Ford pickup, but did not open the door. Beyond the chain-link fence, 3 white transport trailers waited outside Warehouse 4. Their engines were running. Blue Halcyon logos shone beneath the gray morning sky. Workers in reflective jackets checked seals, signed forms, and guided forklifts toward the open trailers. The Monday shipment was still moving. That told Marcus what Daniel Cross had refused to say. The brake control units had not been held for another inspection. They were leaving. On paper, each unit had passed. Marcus had seen the paper. He had also watched a test bus continue rolling nearly 12 feet after the system should have responded on a wet road simulation. 12 feet looked harmless inside a spreadsheet. On a school street, 12 feet could become the distance between safety and regret. Marcus placed the box on the hood of his truck. Lily's photograph rested on top, her front teeth slightly uneven, her smile too bright for the cold morning around him. His phone vibrated. For 1 second, he hoped it was Ethan Cole from the testing floor. Ethan had stood beside him during the final simulation, staring at the delay counter with both hands pressed against the console. Instead, the screen showed a bank alert. His checking account had fallen below $200 after rent cleared. Marcus turned the phone face down. Money could wait for one breath. The trucks could not. Inside the building, Daniel walked through the quality control department without slowing. "Return to your assignments," he said. "The matter has been resolved." No one asked what matter he meant. Marcus's black coffee sat untouched beside an empty chair, cooling beneath the fluorescent lights. Ethan looked toward the glass office above the floor. Daniel met his eyes and held them for half a second. That was enough. Ethan lowered his head and reopened the inspection report. The final approval box was still blank. It would not remain blank for long. 42 floors above them, Claire Whitmore ended a call with the company's largest lender and opened Marcus's termination summary. Unauthorized access. Disruption of operations. Loss of internal trust. The language was polished. Complete. Almost too complete. Claire read it twice. Marcus had worked at Halcyon for 6 years without a formal complaint. His reviews repeated the same words. Careful, restrained, dependable. None of those words matched the reckless employee described in Daniel's report. She leaned back and listened to the faint vibration of truck engines far below. Her phone rang again. The board chairman. She answered on the second ring. "Is the shipment leaving on schedule?" he asked. Claire looked down at the loading yard. From that height, the trailers appeared small enough to move with one hand. "Yes," she said. The word left a weight behind. In the parking lot, Marcus watched the first warehouse door rise. A transport truck rolled forward, slow and steady, its tires dark against the wet pavement. He checked the time. 8:27, 3 minutes. He reached into his jacket and unfolded a sheet of paper covered in handwritten test numbers. Security had taken his company notebook, but these figures had been copied from memory after each failed run. Daniel believed Marcus had walked away empty-handed. Daniel had never understood that careful men did not trust a single copy of the truth. Marcus opened his truck door and placed Lily's photograph on the passenger seat. Then he looked back at the moving trailers. At 8:29, the first truck reached the outer gate. Marcus did not run after it. He did not raise his voice. He took out his phone, found a number he had hoped never to use, and rested his thumb above the call button as the final minute began. At 8:30, the first transport truck crossed the outer gate, and Marcus Reed did not press the call button. Not yet. A warning without proof could be dismissed as anger. A warning from a man fired 20 minutes earlier could be called revenge. Daniel Cross would make certain of that. Marcus lowered the phone and watched the trailer disappear into traffic, its blue Halcyon logo shrinking beneath the gray Chicago sky. He needed one final piece. Something no executive could explain away. He placed the folded test numbers inside his jacket, climbed into his Ford pickup, and started the engine. Lily's photograph rested beside the cardboard box, smiling up at him as though the morning had not changed anything. Then his phone rang. The number belonged to Jefferson Elementary School. Marcus answered immediately. "Mr. Reed," the office secretary said, "Lily left her science project in your truck. She says the presentation is before lunch." Marcus looked over his shoulder. On the back seat sat a cardboard school bus painted bright yellow, its wheels made from black bottle caps. Lily had spent 3 evenings building it at the kitchen table. Across one side, in uneven blue letters, she had written "Safe Ride." I will bring it, Marcus said. I am about 15 minutes away. The school stood between a public library and a row of brick homes, its flag moving sharply in the cold wind. Marcus carried the model through the front entrance while the cardboard box from Halcyon remained hidden beneath an old blanket in his truck. He did not want Lily to see it. Some truths needed time before they entered a child's world. She was waiting outside the main office in a purple sweater, her braids tied with yellow ribbons. The moment she saw the bus in his hands, relief brightened her face. You saved me, she said. You did most of the saving when you built it, Marcus replied. Lily hugged the model carefully, then looked at him more closely. Children noticed the things adults worked hardest to hide. Why are you not at work? Marcus glanced toward the office window. Parents crossed the hallway. Teachers carried folders. Somewhere nearby, a bell rang and dozens of small voices moved behind closed classroom doors. I finished early. Today, he said. Lily studied him with the same patient eyes her mother once had. That is not true. Marcus almost smiled. Almost. He crouched until they were eye level. I do not work there anymore. Her fingers tightened around the cardboard bus. Did you quit? No, did they fire you? The words sounded too large in her voice. Marcus nodded once. Lily looked down at the words safe ride painted across the side of her project. Was it because you did something bad? No, baby. Then why? Marcus searched for an answer that would not make the world feel colder than it already was. Sometimes people become afraid when someone tells them a truth they do not want to hear. Lily remained quiet. Her yellow ribbons moved slightly in the warm air from the ceiling vent. Do good people get fired too? She asked. The question settled inside him with more weight than the termination letter. Marcus reached out and straightened one of the bottle cap wheels on her model. Yes, he said. Good people can lose jobs. They can lose money. They can lose places they thought they belonged. Lily lifted her eyes. Then what do they keep? Marcus looked at his daughter, at the careful bus in her hands, at the faith she had placed in him without asking for evidence. They keep the part of themselves that knows what is right. Her teacher appeared at the classroom door and called her name. Lily took 2 steps, then turned back. Are you going to be okay? Marcus nodded. I am going to make sure you are. She walked away carrying the yellow bus against her chest. Marcus watched until the classroom door closed. Outside, 3 real school buses waited along the curb. One driver had left his door open while checking a clipboard. Marcus passed the first bus, then stopped beside the second. Near the dashboard was a silver Halcyon service label. He leaned closer. The serial code began with the same 6 numbers written on the folded sheet inside his jacket. For a moment, the entire street seemed to hold its breath. The Monday shipment was not the beginning. Those units were already carrying children. Marcus took out his phone again. This time, his thumb did not hesitate. The phone rang. Twice before a calm male voice answered. Federal Motor Safety Review, Walter Hayes speaking. Marcus stood beside the yellow school bus, one hand resting against the cold metal near the service label. Children laughed behind the school windows. A crossing guard lifted a red sign at the corner. Everything around him looked ordinary, which made the serial number feel even more wrong. Mr. Hayes, this is Marcus Reed from Halcyon Mobility. Silence followed. Not confusion. Recognition. Marcus, Walter said slowly. Are you calling about the Cedar Protocol? Marcus looked through the windshield at the steering column, then at the row of classroom windows where Lily had disappeared. I am calling about File Read 17. The delayed brake response was approved for distribution. Walter's voice changed. It became smaller, more precise. Were the units shipped? 1 truck left this morning. Marcus paused. But that is not the first batch. I am standing beside an active school bus with the same serial sequence. Walter did not answer immediately. Marcus could hear keys moving in the background. Read me the full number. Marcus leaned closer and spoke each digit clearly. The keys stopped. Do not touch the vehicle, Walter said. Do not contact Halcyon again. Send every record you have to the secure address I am texting you. Marcus closed his eyes for 1 second. How many buses? I cannot answer that yet. Can you stop them? Another pause. I can start the process. The words were honest. They were not comforting. Marcus ended the call and returned to his truck. Before driving away, he watched Lily's teacher lead her class toward the library wing. Lily carried her cardboard bus with both hands. Its bottle cap wheels turned unevenly as she walked. Safe ride. The words stayed with him all the way back toward the city. At Halcyon Mobility, Claire Whitmore stood before the windows of her office while Daniel Cross explained why Marcus had been removed. He became unstable after his findings were rejected, Daniel said. He copied restricted data and attempted to delay a contract worth $180 million. Claire turned from the glass. Attempted. Daniel adjusted one cuff. He raised concerns without sufficient evidence. That is not what I asked. Her voice remained quiet. Daniel's expression held. He tried to place the shipment on hold. Claire looked down at the yard. 2 transport trailers remained near Warehouse 4. The third was gone. And the testing records? Reviewed and approved. By whom? The appropriate team. Claire waited. Daniel did not offer a name. Her phone vibrated across the desk, but she ignored it. Send me the raw simulation files. Those files are technical. I can prepare a summary. I did not ask for a summary. For the first time, something tightened behind Daniel's eyes. It vanished quickly. Of course. He left without another word. Claire remained still until the door closed. Then she opened the internal security system and searched for the lobby footage from that morning. At 8:17, Marcus appeared outside the glass doors. He tried his badge 3 times. He did not pound on the door. He did not argue. When Daniel approached, Marcus asked one question. The camera had no clear audio, but Claire could read enough from his lips. Did the Monday shipment pass inspection? She replayed the moment. Then again. At 8:18, Marcus looked toward the clock above the elevators. Daniel followed his gaze. The exchange lasted less than 2 seconds, but something about it disturbed her. Marcus had not looked like a man losing control. He had looked like a man measuring time. Claire switched to the quality control floor camera. Marcus's workstation had already been cleared. His coffee remained beside the keyboard. Ethan Cole sat 3 desks away, staring at an approval form. Claire zoomed in. The signature field was empty. Daniel entered the frame. He stood beside Ethan for several seconds, said something, then walked away. Ethan picked up the pen. Claire froze the image before it touched the paper. Her phone vibrated again. This time, the screen displayed a government number. A message appeared beneath it. Official notice of immediate safety review. Claire read the first line, then the second. All distribution of Halcyon brake control units was suspended. She looked back at the frozen image of Ethan's hand above the unsigned report. Somewhere between the red badge light and the empty signature box, the story Daniel had given her began to fall apart. The notice arrived at 8:46, and by 8:49 the building had changed its breathing. The 2 transport trucks waiting outside Warehouse 4 were ordered to shut down. Loading doors lowered. Forklifts stopped beneath the white lights. On the quality control floor, computer screens flashed the same message. Distribution suspended pending federal safety review. No one spoke above a whisper. Halcyon Mobility had spent 28 years teaching the public to trust its name. Now 3 official lines on a screen had made that name feel fragile. Claire Whitmore stood behind her desk with the notice open in front of her. The order covered every brake control unit connected to the serial sequence Marcus had reported. Not only the Monday shipment. Every active unit manufactured during the previous 4 months. Her eyes moved to the estimated field count. 847 school buses. The number seemed impossible. Then it seemed worse because it was not. Daniel Cross entered without knocking. This is an overreaction, he said. His voice remained controlled, but he had forgotten to straighten his tie. A former employee made an unverified complaint. Claire turned the monitor toward him. They included a serial number from a bus already in service. Daniel did not look at the screen for long. Marcus had access to production records. He could have chosen any number. The bus was outside his daughter's school. That stopped him. Only for a second. Then he planned this. Claire watched his face carefully. You believe he arranged for a defective unit to be installed months ago, arranged to be fired this morning, and arranged for his daughter's school to use that bus? Daniel's mouth tightened. I believe he wants leverage. Claire looked toward the city beyond the glass. He did not ask for anything. Her phone rang before Daniel could answer. The company's largest school district was placing its contract on temporary hold. A second call followed from the bank. The credit line supporting Halcyon's expansion would be frozen until the investigation was resolved. Then came the board chairman, demanding an emergency meeting within the hour. Each voice carried the same question in a different suit. How much did Claire know? She had no answer she trusted. Daniel reached for the notice on her desk. Claire placed one hand over it. Send me the raw simulation files now. The servers are being secured. Then send me the audit trail. Claire, this is not the time to create internal confusion. She met his eyes. Confusion began when someone decided I needed summaries instead of facts. Daniel stood very still. Then he gave a small nod and left. At 9:07, Naomi Brooks from Corporate Ethics arrived carrying a laptop and a thin paper folder. Naomi was 45, patient, and almost impossible to hurry. That morning, she moved quickly. You need to see this before the board does, she said. She opened the folder across Claire's desk. 7 printed reports lay inside, each bearing Marcus Reed's employee number. The first had been submitted 6 weeks earlier. The last had been filed Friday afternoon. Claire read the subject lines in order. Delayed response under wet road conditions. Calibration mismatch across production batch. Repeat failure after software update. Request for immediate shipment hold. Every report was marked closed. Who closed them? Claire asked. Naomi turned the laptop around. The audit history showed each warning entering the system, moving toward executive review, then disappearing before reaching Claire's office. The same administrator credential appeared beside all 7 deletions. Daniel Cross. Claire stared at the screen. The room felt colder, though the heat was running. Why did Marcus keep filing them? Naomi asked softly. Claire touched the corner of the final report. Beneath the technical notes, Marcus had added one sentence. These units may be carrying children before anyone decides to listen. Claire read it twice. Outside her office, phones rang across the executive floor. Employees moved faster. Doors opened and closed. Somewhere below, the company's polished machinery had begun to slow. Claire had believed Marcus was trying to damage Halcyon. The truth was quieter. He had spent 6 weeks trying to protect it, and the people in charge had punished him for refusing to look away. At 9:24, every elevator on the executive floor opened at once. Board members arrived in dark coats. Legal counsel followed with sealed folders, and 2 federal safety investigators crossed the marble lobby without looking at the company's slogan glowing above reception. Claire Whitmore watched them from behind the glass wall of the conference room. For years, that wall had made her feel protected. That morning, it felt like a display case. Daniel Cross entered carrying a binder thick enough to suggest certainty. We need one message, he said. A former employee acted outside procedure. Regulators responded before reviewing the facts, and Halcyon is cooperating fully. Claire closed the folder containing Marcus Reed's 7 deleted warnings. That message would be false. Daniel placed the binder on the table. It would be controlled. Those are not the same thing. The board chairman, Robert Lang, took the seat at the head of the table. He was 68, silver-haired, and accustomed to asking questions as though the answers already belonged to him. How much exposure are we discussing? Naomi Brooks connected her laptop to the wall screen. A map appeared, marked with school districts across Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa, and Ohio. 847 vehicles carried units from the affected production run. Some were parked. Some were on morning routes. Others were already being removed from service. Robert stared at the map. Has anyone been harmed? There are no confirmed reports, Naomi said. Relief moved around the table too quickly. Claire noticed it. They were relieved because the damage had not yet become visible. Marcus had been afraid of what could happen before anyone else was willing to look. Daniel opened his binder. The failure rate was within acceptable tolerance under unusual testing conditions. Naomi turned toward him. A delayed response of nearly 2 seconds was not approved tolerance. According to whose interpretation? According to the raw simulation data. Daniel's fingers stopped on the page. Claire heard the silence change. It became attentive. You told me the files had been reviewed, she said. They were. You told me Marcus had no evidence. He had incomplete data. Then why did you delete his reports? Daniel leaned back, disappointment settling across his face like a carefully chosen mask. Because he kept submitting the same concern after qualified managers closed it. We cannot allow one employee to paralyze an operation every time he disagrees with a decision. Robert nodded slightly. The argument sounded reasonable. That was Daniel's gift. He could place fear inside professional language and make it resemble discipline. Claire looked at the map again. Hundreds of yellow buses. Thousands of children. One of them was Lily Reed. Where is the original approval? She asked. No one answered. Claire turned to Ethan Cole, who had been brought into the room by corporate counsel. He sat near the far end of the table, shoulders tight, His employee badge turned backward against his shirt. "Ethan," Claire said, softening her voice. "Did you approve the final inspection?" Daniel looked toward him before he could answer. Ethan saw it. "So did Claire." "I signed the form," Ethan said. "That is not what I asked." His hands folded together. "No, ma'am. I did not approve the result." Robert frowned. "Then why did you sign?" Ethan swallowed. Mr. Cross said the software team had already corrected the delay and the contract could not survive another hold. He told me Marcus was creating problems because he wanted a promotion. Daniel exhaled through his nose. This is a frightened junior employee protecting himself. Ethan lowered his eyes. "I should have refused." His voice nearly disappeared. Marcus did. At 9:41, one of the federal investigators entered and handed Naomi a formal preservation order. Every production record, internal message, inspection file, and executive authorization connected to the affected units was now protected from deletion. Daniel read the first page and lost color around his mouth. Claire noticed. "There is something else," the investigator said. Mr. Reed submitted an encrypted evidence package through the Cedar reporting channel. It includes time-stamped test results, photographs of calibration screens, and audio from 2 review meetings. Daniel stood. "He recorded confidential discussions?" "The meetings concerned public safety," Naomi said. "Illinois law permits recording when the reporting employee is protecting evidence of potential misconduct under the applicable conditions." Daniel looked at Claire. "You cannot let an angry former employee define this company." Claire thought of Marcus leaving with a cardboard box while she watched from above. He had not looked angry. He had looked alone. Her phone lit up with a secure message from Walter Hayes. One sentence appeared beneath the case number. "Mr. Reed has requested protection for hourly workers who were not involved in the approval process." Claire read it again. He had lost his job, his income, and his name inside the building. Yet his first request was for people who had stayed silent while he was escorted out. She looked across the table at Daniel. "Marcus is not defining this company," she said. "He is showing us what we allowed it to become." Outside the conference room, the phones continued ringing. Inside, for the first time that morning, nobody tried to answer them. At 10:18, Claire Whitmore left Halcyon Mobility through a side entrance without an assistant, a driver, or the gray coat that usually made people step aside before she reached them. The Chicago wind caught her hair the moment she crossed the sidewalk. She did not stop to fix it. Naomi Brooks had found Marcus Reed's address in the emergency contact file, but when Claire reached the small brick apartment building, the landlord told her Marcus was not home. "Monday is laundry day," the woman said, pointing toward a storefront 2 blocks away. Claire found him beneath a flickering blue sign that read Lakeview Coin Laundry. Inside, washing machines turned behind round glass doors. The air smelled of detergent, warm cotton, and coffee from a vending machine near the entrance. Marcus sat at a folding table with Lily's purple sweater spread carefully in front of him. A needle moved through a loose seam between his fingers. His cardboard box rested on the chair beside him. Claire stopped near the door. In the office, he had always seemed like part of the machinery. Quiet, reliable, easy to overlook. Here, with his jacket hanging over the chair and his daughter's clothes stacked in careful rows, he looked like a man carrying an entire home without asking anyone to notice the weight. Marcus saw her reflection in the dark window before he turned. He placed the needle on the table. "Miss Whitmore." Not Claire. Not Chief Executive Officer. Just the formal distance she had earned. "May I sit down?" she asked. Marcus looked at the empty chair across from him. "It is a public laundromat." Claire sat. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. A dryer clicked softly behind her. Somewhere near the back, a child laughed while pushing an empty laundry cart. Claire placed Marcus's 7 reports on the table. He looked at them but did not reach forward. "I read every one," she said. "You should have read them before today." The words were not sharp. That made them harder to receive. Claire lowered her eyes. "Yes." Marcus returned to the sweater and guided the thread through the fabric. "Did Daniel Cross tell you I was unstable? He said you were trying to interfere with the shipment." "I was." Claire looked up. Marcus tied a small knot and cut the thread with a pair of dull scissors. "The shipment needed to be stopped. Did you know the call could freeze our contracts, close the credit line, and place the entire company under investigation?" Marcus folded the sweater once, then again. "No," Claire waited. "I knew what could happen if I stayed quiet." The washing machines continued turning. Claire had spent years in rooms where people answered questions with numbers, forecasts, and carefully arranged excuses. Marcus answered with a folded child's sweater between his hands. "You could have come to me," she said. He met her eyes. "I tried 7 times. Claire felt the truth settle without drama. No raised voice. No accusation. Just 7 attempts she had never seen because the people around her had decided what she was allowed to know. "I signed your termination," she said. "I know. I did not ask to hear your side." "I know that too." Claire looked toward the cardboard box. Lily's photograph rested near the top beside the red knit cap. "What do you want from me?" Marcus leaned back slightly. "Right now? Anything. Your position restored. Compensation. A public apology. Name it." He studied her as though the question revealed more than any answer could. "Keep the hourly workers employed while the investigation continues." Claire blinked. "That is your first request." Most of them did not know what Daniel was doing. They have rent, children, medical bills. They should not lose everything because leadership failed. Claire looked down at the reports. "And what about you?" Marcus placed Lily's sweater on the finished stack. "I will manage." His voice was calm, but the bank alert from that morning remained on his phone. The cardboard box still held the end of 6 years. Claire understood that dignity was not the absence of need. Sometimes it was the decision not to use pain as a weapon. "There is an emergency board meeting at 11, she said. "Daniel will claim you acted out of revenge." Marcus reached into the box and removed a small blue storage drive. He set it between them. "That contains the original test files, timestamps, and the meeting recordings." Claire stared at it. "You are giving this to me? I am giving you the chance to decide what kind of leader you are when the truth costs more than silence." Claire picked up the drive. It weighed less than an ounce. In her hand, it felt heavier than the company she had inherited. Marcus returned to the laundry. He did not ask whether she believed him. Belief was no longer enough. As Claire stood to leave, he spoke again. "Miss Whitmore." She turned. "Do not save the company's name," he said. "Save the people who trusted it." Claire stepped back into the cold, carrying the evidence Daniel had tried to erase. Behind her, Marcus fed quarters into another machine and watched the empty drum begin to turn. At 10:56, Claire Whitmore returned to Halcyon Mobility carrying the blue storage drive in her closed hand. The lobby had lost its usual rhythm. Employees stood near the elevators in quiet. Groups, watching federal investigators move through security with sealed evidence cases. The company's slogan still glowed above reception, promising safety through innovation, but no one looked at it now. Claire crossed the marble floor without slowing. Daniel Cross waited outside the boardroom, his tie straight again, his expression restored. "Where have you been?" he asked. "Learning what my reports left out." His eyes moved to her hand. "Did you meet Marcus?" Claire did not answer. She opened the boardroom door and stepped inside. 11 directors sat around the long walnut table. Corporate counsel occupied one side. Naomi Brooks sat near the wall screen with Ethan Cole beside her. Robert Lang checked his watch. "We are already facing canceled contracts, frozen financing, and national press inquiries," he said. "We need a decision." "You will have one," Claire replied. She placed the blue drive on the table. Daniel remained standing. "Before this turns into a performance," he said, "the board should know that Marcus Reed copied protected company material after his concerns were reviewed and rejected. His actions have placed thousands of jobs at risk." Claire looked down the length of the table. Marcus asked that every hourly worker remain employed during the investigation. A few directors shifted in their chairs. Daniel gave a humorless smile. "That does not make his conduct lawful." "No," Claire said. "The evidence does." Naomi connected the drive to an isolated computer. The first file opened with a timestamp from 6 weeks earlier. A brake simulation filled the screen. Numbers moved across a black display. At 45 miles per hour on a wet surface, the command signal appeared. The vehicle response followed nearly 2 seconds later. The next test showed the same delay. Then another. No one spoke. Daniel folded his arms. These were early runs. The software was corrected. Naomi opened the final production test from Friday. The delay remained. Claire turned toward Daniel. "Where is the corrected result?" "There were multiple systems involved. Show us one passing raw test." Daniel glanced toward corporate counsel. "I will not participate in an ambush." "Built from stolen files." Claire nodded to Naomi. A recording began. Marcus's voice came first, low and controlled. He explained the repeated failure and requested a shipment hold. Ethan confirmed the numbers. Then Daniel's voice entered the room. He said the contract could not survive another delay. He instructed them to use the averaged response time rather than the failed peak measurements. Marcus refused. Daniel answered with 6 quiet words. Then perhaps you do not belong here. The recording ended. The boardroom remained still. Robert removed his glasses. Did you authorize the reports to be altered? Daniel looked at Claire instead. I protected the company from an employee who could not understand the difference between technical caution and executive responsibility. Ethan raised his head. His voice trembled, but it did not disappear. He understood the difference. That is why he would not sign. Daniel turned sharply. You signed. After you told me Marcus would be fired either way. Naomi opened the audit history. 7 warnings appeared in order, each deleted under Daniel's administrator credential. The final report carried Marcus's sentence about children riding in buses before anyone listened. Claire had read it in private. Hearing it now inside the room where contracts had always mattered most made it feel heavier. Daniel placed both palms on the table. You are all pretending business can operate without difficult decisions. No one was harmed. We had time to correct the issue quietly. Claire looked at him for a long moment. We had time because Marcus made the call. He destroyed public confidence. No. He revealed that we had stopped deserving it. Robert asked corporate counsel whether Daniel could remain during the investigation. The answer came carefully. His access should be suspended immediately. Daniel stared at Claire as though betrayal belonged only to him. Your father built this company with me. Claire felt the old weight of that sentence. For years, Daniel had used her father's memory as a key to every locked door. This time, it did not turn. My father built a company that promised parents their children would come home. Safely, she said. You used his name to hide the moment we stopped keeping that promise. Security waited outside, but Claire did not make a display of his removal. She asked Daniel to surrender his badge and leave the building with counsel. He placed the badge on the table. The plastic struck the wood with a small, empty sound. Marcus's badge had made the same sound hours earlier. Only now did Claire understand the difference. One had been taken to protect a lie. The other was being removed because the truth had survived. After Daniel left, Robert turned to Claire. The board will need to discuss your position as well. Claire nodded. You should. She signed the order preserving hourly payroll, authorized full cooperation with regulators, and directed every affected bus to remain out of service until independent testing was complete. Then she placed her own executive badge beside Daniel's. I signed a termination without hearing the man whose warnings could have prevented this, she said. That failure belongs to me. No one interrupted. Beyond the glass walls, the entire executive floor had gone quiet enough to hear the ventilation system moving air through the building. Claire looked toward the empty chair reserved for outside witnesses. Marcus had not come to watch Daniel fall. He had not needed revenge to prove he was right. He had only needed one person in power to stop protecting power itself. 3 weeks later, the blue halcyon sign disappeared from the front of the building. It was not removed because the company had closed. It was removed because the name had become a promise no one inside had earned the right to display. Federal investigators completed the first stage of their review. Every affected brake control unit was recalled. Independent engineers confirmed the delay Marcus had documented, and school districts received replacement systems at no cost. No child had been harmed. That sentence appeared in every official report, but Claire Whitmore understood that luck was not the same as innocence. The board accepted her resignation as chief executive officer, then asked her to remain for 90 days to oversee the restructuring. She agreed. Under one condition. Every decision would be public to employees, regulators, and the families whose trust had been used as currency. Daniel Cross was formally removed, along with 3 senior managers who had helped alter test summaries. The old board chairman stepped down. The executive floor, once guarded by tinted glass and private elevators, was open to department representatives. Claire sold her penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan and placed a portion of the money into an emergency fund for hourly employees. Payroll continued during the shutdown. Health insurance remained active. No warehouse worker, receptionist, technician, or driver lost a paycheck because of decisions made above them. Marcus learned about the fund from Naomi Brooks, not from Claire. That mattered to him. Good deeds performed for applause were only another kind of advertisement. On a clear Thursday morning, Claire drove to Jefferson Elementary School in a plain gray sedan. She parked near the curb and waited beside the row of newly inspected buses. Her phone remained inside the car. No assistant stood behind her. No schedule hurried her forward. Marcus arrived carrying Lily's lunch bag, which she had forgotten on the kitchen counter. He saw Claire and slowed, but he did not turn away. "Miss Whitmore," he said. "Marcus." She held out a folder. He did not take it immediately. "What is it?" "The charter for a new independent safety division. It reports directly to regulators and the Employee Oversight Council. No chief executive officer can close a warning, alter a finding, or remove an investigator." Marcus opened the folder. His name appeared on the first page as the proposed director. Beneath it was a salary higher than anything he had earned at Halcyon. He read the number without changing expression. "This is generous. It is fair. Those are not always the same thing." Claire accepted the correction with a small nod. "Then it is an attempt to be fair." A yellow bus pulled toward the curb. Lily appeared through the school doors with her cardboard science project tucked under one arm. The bottle cap wheels had been repaired with silver tape. She spotted Marcus and waved. Then she noticed Claire. Her pace became cautious. Marcus handed her the lunch bag. "You forgot this." Lily looked at the folder in his hand. "Is that a new job?" "Maybe." Claire lowered herself slightly, so she was not speaking down to the child. "Your father helped make these buses safer." Lily glanced toward Marcus. "He said he only told the truth." Claire's face softened. "Sometimes that is the hardest part." The bus driver opened the door and greeted Lily by name. Marcus checked the silver service label beside the dashboard. A green inspection seal covered the old serial plate. He ran one finger across it, then stepped back. Lily climbed aboard and took a window seat. Before the bus moved, she pressed her palm against the glass. Marcus raised his hand in return. The vehicle pulled away smoothly, turned at the corner, and disappeared beneath the morning trees. Claire watched until it was gone. "Do you think people like me can change?" she asked. Marcus kept his eyes on the empty street. "People do not change because they feel guilty." Claire waited. "They change when doing what is right costs them something, and they choose it anyway." She looked toward the building across town, where her family name no longer hung above the doors. "I am still learning that." "Then keep learning." Marcus closed the folder. "I will take the position under 3 conditions. Every test result remains visible. Any employee can stop a shipment without fear of losing a job. And the first meeting is held on the factory floor, not 42 stories above it." Claire extended her hand. "Agreed." Marcus shook it once. No celebration followed. No cameras captured the moment. The street remained quiet, washed in ordinary morning light. Months later, the reorganized company opened under a new name. Marcus's old employee badge was placed in a glass case near the entrance, not as proof that one man had defeated a corporation, but as a warning about what happens when institutions stop listening to the people closest to the truth. Beside it stood a single sentence chosen by the workers. "Silence protects a system only until someone decides people matter more." Marcus never raised his voice. He simply refused to lower his standards, and in doing so, he taught a powerful woman that leadership was not standing above others. It was being willing to stand accountable beside them.